Welcome back.
To Marriage Beyond the Veil. Well, I work for a hospital system, and we're in the process of getting ready to make some changes. And it just seems like every time we get ready to implement this particular program, it get pushed back a little bit further.
Okay.
It just keeps getting pushed back. But I keep thinking, it's going to happen when it's in God's time, or when the timing is perfectly
You mean
right.
the program actually be executed?
To be executed when it's perfectly, or when it's ready to be executed. But it's all about perfect timing. And then I began to think about when you have a disagreement or something that could really be a potentially touchy subject with your spouse. Do you pray before you bring up the subject?
Well, I think anytime that you're dealing with something that's potentially challenging, difficult, I think that's just wisdom to pray for discernment, for direction or guidance. When, how, if, when you should bring it up, how you should bring it up, or if you should bring it up. I think so many times there are opportunities when nothing really needs to be said because there may not be the perfect thing that can be said, or your loved one may not be in a place where they can receive it. And so when you're talking about difficult and challenging situations and circumstances, I think praying first is always wise.
Yeah, and I had to grow into that, because I would like to be fully honest. I had to grow into that because that wasn't anything that I had any knowledge of, even though I was actively growing in my faith. When I would get mad, there wasn't, I just went in for the jugular, and so, I learned over years. Yeah, I did. I learned over years, though, because he wouldn't argue with me. I learned over years that, to be patient. And I also learned to just stop and sometimes pray. And I would say, okay, God, what can I say to him, or what should I say to him? And sometimes it was like, even though, and this is how God works, because sometimes I say, well, God, what could I say? In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, just to see what he's going to say. I still wasn't in the right frame of mind. I still was in a negative.
Well, see, and what I hear you saying, though, what you grew into was love. Because love is patient. Love is kind. It is not self-seeking.
Yes.
It does not delight in evil. It keeps no record of wrongs. So what I hear
and
you
I did
saying,
all that. So anyway, I just want you, especially because I know females can sometimes be hot-headed.
Really?
Yes. Make sure that you're taking a minute to talk to God before you have those challenging conversations.
But, even if it's not a situation where you may be emotionally, let's say,
charged,
right? But anything that whether it's something of significant importance or not, but it's something that you want to convey, I think it's just wisdom because you want to make sure that you're heard, that whatever information you're transmitting, your loved one is receiving.
Okay.
And so sometimes it's not whether or not either of you are like in an emotional charge place. But again, if it's something that you definitely want to make certain that is conveyed, be prayerful about it, because sometimes just not the right time.
That's true.
Or sometimes it may not be the way that you intended to present it may not be the best way.
Yeah.
And everything that you feel like you want to address doesn't need to be addressed. So, again, being prayerful prior to any communication, I think, is just wisdom.
In God's time.
But particularly if you're emotionally charged and a female.
Guilty.
So until tomorrow.
He provoked me.
Really? Really? Until tomorrow, if the Lord says the same.
Have a good evening.